Hey guys, we're back on the Cushman Trackster trying to get this power system sorted out, see if we can figure out what's going on with the voltage supply. Follow along while we get things put back together. Thanks for watching. Starting off, absolute first thing to talk about before we start reassembling, we've got the timing cam for the points. And when you first take this flywheel off, this cam will be down here at the end of the crankshaft, and if you don't pull it off, align the teeth with the teeth in the timing advance and have it sitting in here. This tab that I'm flipping with my thumbnail, point at it with a screwdriver, this tab will catch this cam and will break it off. And if you break that, your chances of finding another one of those ignition cams are slim to nil. And the reason I know that is about 5 years ago, when I first started working on my snow cruiser, I broke that. And I think the replacement part, I got this, I got a new spare coil, I think I got this plate that everything mounts to, etc. I think I had to spend $300-400. I forget exactly what it was, but it was pretty expensive because those cams are essentially unobtainable anymore. They used to be a common part that you could buy for these things, but of course OMC stopped producing parts for these many years ago, and they've long since gone out of business. So don't break the cam. I guess we can do a little bit of a summary of how we got to where we are. This is the original voltage regulator here. I've bolted this fin thing underneath. It's kind of like a generic, mini bike or four-wheeler or something like that voltage regulator. It's a rectifier and voltage regulator combined. We've got the wires that go down into the motor for the charge coil. I was hoping it was just going to be a simple matter of putting a voltage regulator on this thing to get it to start charging, and that just didn't work out. We found some damage on the charge coil, and we got that fixed, but there wasn't anything there that would really be causing this to not produce any power. And then we decided to check the magnetism on the flywheel, and it was a little bit low, and I've recharged that with neodymium. I always have a hard time saying that word. Neodymium magnet, and it seems to be holding its charge and should be high enough that we can now bolt this back together, and hopefully we'll have some power. If we don't have enough power coming from this system, it's not the end of the world. I don't know how well it shows up here in this light, but that's a pretty good sized battery, group 28 I think, or group 27. Group 27 battery is what I'm using for this system, and that definitely has enough juice to run things, even though it's not being charged regularly. But there is another option that we can kind of keep up our sleeve, and that is adding in a John Deere style lawn tractor alternator. I've got one of those that I picked up to install on the Argo, and we could also do one on this if we absolutely needed to. All sorts of options. Let's hope this works the way it is first though. When I extracted this coil, I was expecting to replace it with a new used decent one, so I just clipped the wires off, and now that we're putting it back in, we've got a few little things we need to do. I've crimped on some non-insulated butt splice, and we'll put some heat shrink over that. And also, I don't know how well you guys can see it in the camera, but there's a couple little nicks in this wire, so we'll put some heat shrink over top of it too. I'm using the marine grade stuff that has kind of an adhesive on the inside. It's kind of like a hot glue gun, or hot glue, like what you get out of a glue gun. And it just goes on the inside of the heat shrink and seals everything up. This might take a little while to get heat. Ah, there we go. It is kind of cold in here today. And there's a little bit of squeeze out that you can get, where the glue is definitely showing us that we're sealed down against the wire. And we've got A couple more pieces. I think I'm going to shove those on the wires coming down from above. Polarity doesn't matter on this. Because this is going to be alternating current, or AC. And that is approximately where it needs to be. We've got that snug down. One thing we want to make sure of, there's a little bit of a lip here. We want to be inside of the lip. And likewise, there's a little lip here that we want to be inside of. And that may be what caused the contact on these coils. Something had come around and bumped these three pickup coils. And I'm wondering if maybe at some point they had been installed so that they were sitting up on those lips and out a little too far. As we've discussed in the other videos on this series, this cam is kind of a spark advance type of thing. I don't want to mess with it here too much, but there's a, this does your centrifugal advance type of arrangement. And this could easily bump into that coil and cause the wear and damage if that were not screwed in all the way down into the base. Now that we've got the coil mounted, we want to make sure that we get those wires back up. I'm going to go around the front and pull on them, see if I can get them to go down. It would be nice if we could get this to tuck in so that we're not going to catch those wires on anything on the inside of that flywheel. Well, that basically has the coil remounted. Now we need to get the flywheel back on. I'm going to try leaving the starter belt off of there. This belt, this is the end of the starter assembly here, and it goes around a groove on the outside of the flywheel. I want to leave that off for the time being, just so we don't have to fight getting the flywheel line back up. As I mentioned earlier in the video, probably the most critical thing that we're going to have to worry about is this cam, because we cannot break it. It is just, I think it's either some kind of aluminum or sintered metal or something. It's they're not terribly sturdy, let's put it that way. And although I do have a lathe, I don't believe there's any way that my tooling would ever be able to recreate that if we did end up breaking it. Now the keyway is here, and we've got a wide slot for the keyway in the cam, and then I don't know whether that's showing up for you guys or not, but if we get inside on the flywheel, there's just the narrow keyway. Well, there we go. That seems to be seated. There we go. That gives us a flywheel that's reinstalled. Now we need to get a starter belt back on. Let me get the recoil and the governor bolted back on, and then we'll be ready to give this thing a try. Well guys, we've got the cover back on the engine. We've got the air cleaner cover back in place. We've got the governor hooked up. I think we're pretty well ready to give this thing a try and see how it's going to run. Give it a bit of a cold start. I've got the main battery lead disconnected. We're showing 0 volts on the voltmeter. I don't know how well you guys can see that. The screen's got a little bit of paint overspray on it. It's kind of hard to read. Well, let's see what happens when we fire this thing up. Actually, maybe we'll measure the AC first. Let me switch the leads over to the AC wires, and then we'll check and see what we've got for AC voltage. No surprise, because the engine's not running. There's no source of AC coming. We've got 0 volts there, or there's 0. Let's turn this thing over and see what we get. Well, that certainly doesn't look promising. After all that work, fixing the lighting coil and remagnetizing the flywheel, we're still only getting about 5 volts out of this thing. Something tells me when we hook this up to the DC side, we're not going to get anywhere near the 12 or 13 volts that we wanted to get. There's no better way to test it than to test it, so let me shut the camera off here. I'll switch the leads over to the DC side and we'll see what we get. Before we get too carried away and start testing the DC side of this, I think I want to try running this with the just hooked up to the AC. We're on the yellow and the white. I've disconnected from the voltage regulator here, so hopefully that will unload things. Let's see what we get for an open circuit voltage. Well, that certainly is better than 5 volts, but it's not giving us the 20 that we would expect to see. Let me hook this all back up again, and we'll see what we get out of the DC side of this voltage regulator now. The way I've got this set up is, this is our 12 volt positive output. It's not connected into the charging system, because if I did connect it up, it would show the 13 volts that we're getting out of the battery. We're showing 0 volts output. Not surprising, the motor's not turning. Let's spark this thing up and see what happens. One or 2 volts. That's definitely not what we want. But we're not getting 20 volts plus of AC voltage, so obviously we've still got a charge issue. I do have that other charge coil. I don't know where it is. I do have one though. Either that or I'm going to have to do a deep dive on eBay and see if I can come up with another one. I think that's all it's got to be. The magnets are good in the flywheel. The voltage regulator should be okay. It's brand new. And we're not getting enough AC out of that. The only other thing, you know, with the voltage regulator disconnected, we're only getting 9 or 10 volts out of it. We should be getting 20 or 30 or thereabouts. And the only 2 things that affect that, well, 3 things, are RPM, and at idle this should turn fast enough to give us, you know, something decent. The charge coils, which we've worked on and they seem to be okay, and the magnets, which we've tested and they seem to be okay. The only one that I don't know is okay is the charge coils. So I'm going to have to find the spare that I've got, or find some place to buy a replacement. I'll come back to this, guys. We won't let this one beat us, but it's going to be a while. I think this is going to be the last one on this charge circuit for a little bit. I'd like to thank you guys for stopping by. I wish I had better results to share with you. This definitely was holding up a lot of promise, but we'll have to continue on. Hey, I don't know if I've earned it or not, but can you give me one of those thumb up things if you got this far in the video? And if you haven't already done so, consider subscribing, maybe ring that bell icon. There's merch and links below, and quite often I have affiliate links in the description. All those things help support the channel, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you guys in the next mess.